1997 while eating coconut shrimp with Spencer Kayden and Greg Kotis. We took a taxi cab to the Elizabeth Seton Childbearing Center where we examined my amniotic fluid under a microscope. It looked like snowflakes. I was given a bottle of peppermint-flavored castor oil to hasten my labor. The center has a rule that you have to deliver your baby within 18 hours of your water breaking or you'll be transferred to the hospital. Once the mother's water breaks, the unborn baby is subject to all kinds of infections. I didn't know that at the time. The castor oil didn't taste nearly as bad as the midwife said it would. The midwife sent us home to get some sleep, or at least to try to rest, as she estimated I wouldn't hit full labor till 6 a.m. or so, and we would need to conserve our energy for that. It was a beautiful night. Spencer and Greg and I walked from the West Village to the East Village, telling each other that in a few hours we would see the baby. Greg wanted to call his mother so that she could be in the lobby of the birthing center when the baby was born. Spencer and I fought with him over this. We finally prevailed by telling him that on the very off chance something went wrong with the delivery and I had to be transferred to the hospital, the last thing any of us would need would be a worried grandmother going berserk in the lobby of the birthing center. I went into full labor on the corner of 9th Street and 1st Avenue. Then I rampaged through the apartment for 4 hours, yelling my head off while Greg slept intermittently on the midwife's instructions. At one point, I remember writhing on our unmopped kitchen floor, sandwiched between the refrigerator and the sink, watching a cockroach marching along the baseboard. This was the first omen that my labor was not going to be the beautiful herbal essence experience I had been anticipating. What did it feel like? It felt like climbing alone into a canoe on a river and starting to paddle, and the waters get rougher and rougher, and suddenly you hit the rapids and you realize that this river is way beyond your summer camp skill level, and you're bouncing along over rocks, giant jagged boulders that are bothering the bottom of your canoe, and your face is getting scraped from the branches of the trees on the shore, and suddenly the paddle is wrenched from your hands, and all that you can do is hang on, and hope you don't tip over, hang on, hang on, hang on. At 4 a.m., Greg pried my fingers off the kitchen sink, and we took another taxi to the birthing center. It was now July 3rd. The driver was really scared that I would have the baby in his cab. Then for about 8 hours, I struggled to have the baby. I tried in a tub of hot water. I tried on the king-sized bed. I tried in the shower. I tried squatting on a little stool and leaning up against the wall and hanging onto Greg's shoulders. I tried while sitting on the toilet. I was assisted by Spencer and Greg, 3 midwives, 2 nurses, and a student nurse. I remember watching the clock on the wall. At first it seemed like the baby would come quickly because the opening to the birth canal was dilating so rapidly. By sunrise, the baby's head was visible a few inches up inside my body, but the baby couldn't make it down. That little head just stayed where it was, corkscrewing around as it looked for its way out. The midwife in charge informed me as gently as she could that she would give me another hour, but if I didn't deliver by then, we would have to go to the hospital. My labor was slowing down, I was exhausted, and every time I pushed, I did so with less resolve, less confidence in my ability to paddle the canoe to the shore where my baby was waiting. The midwife even gave me a couple of extra half hours, but I still couldn't deliver. Spencer retrieved my clothes, a red paisley mini dress and a pair of thong bikini panties embossed with a glow-in-the-dark space girl. My new sandals were soaked with amniotic fluid. We took another taxi to the hospital. I remember getting out of the cab at high noon and having a whopping wild contraction on 7th Avenue right in front of all the sandwich carts and the peanut vendors. The elevator to the maternity ward took a very long time. I think something was wrong with it. When we got there, the doctor was angry with the midwife for having taken so long to get me to the hospital. She didn't tell him about my second and third chances. I lay down on a bed with white sheets in a grim little delivery room. I refused to wear a hospital gown. A monitor was strapped across my enormous abdomen. I was given oxytocin, a drug which speeds up contractions, and oxygen. The oxygen mask kept slipping down my face. I'd never been a patient in a hospital before. A St. Vincent's nurse with a tough New York accent joined Spencer and Greg and the midwife from the center. She kept telling me that I had to try harder. She called me Annie, which is what Spencer and Greg call me. Come on, Annie, you gotta do better than that. Push! The doctor appeared in the doorway to see how things were going. He never looked into my eyes or called me by my name. I hear he's famous. I also hear he wanted to give me a cesarean section, but all of a sudden something changed, and I pushed till my eyes felt like they were bugging out of my head like a Balinese mask, and I felt a burning sensation, and I knew that the baby's head was coming out, and the baby's head came out, and the baby's shoulders came out, and the baby came out, and Greg and Spencer were crying, and at 2:37 p.m. they handed me a wet little alien with an enormous sloping cone head, and it was a long time before anyone looked to see if it was a boy or a girl. And it was a girl. To my great surprise, it was a girl with 3 thumbs. We don't really have a girl's name picked out. Delivering the placenta felt so good. The nurse made me put on a hospital gown and an old-fashioned sanitary pad, the kind with a belt. I had never seen one before. I spend the first night in the hospital. The baby sleeps with me. She doesn't wake up to feed. I don't roll over and squash her in my sleep. She has big, sexy lips. At about 7 a.m., the baby is wheeled away to the maternity ward's nursery for tests. I start to feel uneasy when nobody brings my baby back from her tests, and she doesn't come back, and she doesn't come back. 2 hours later, Greg discovers her still in the maternity ward nursery, alone, untested, and crying. A maternity nurse tells me that the 4th of July weekend is a bad time to be a patient in a hospital because all the doctors go on vacation and the new residents are left in charge. We ask that the baby be brought back to my room, and she is. My mother-in-law and brother-in-law and Spencer and 2 other friends visit. They bring bouquets. A pediatrician in a Hawaiian shirt examines the baby and orders tests. He tells us that they might want a neonatalologist to check her out. But don't worry, Mom, it's no big deal. Boy, she's a beautiful one, isn't she? Listen, here's my card. Call me if you have any questions. Then 2 residents arrive to draw blood from the baby's heels. The blood clots before they can get around to testing it, so they come back for a fresh sample. We can tell something is wrong because her cries are so weak. Even when the sharp point of the heel stick bites into her flesh, she sounds like a tiny mewing kitten. Finally, at around 10 p.m., she is taken away for good. I cannot walk, so Greg accompanies her to the NICU, where he keeps a vigil beside her tiny body. Outside the window, fireworks explode.
Doctor tells me that you're in complete labor at this moment. I'll be around all day today. If you want to get in touch with me, we would be so honored and delighted to transport the new family to their new home, to their old home, new home for the family. My number here is 718-230-757. I'm sending good thoughts your way. Bye.
My baby's bassinet in the neonatal intensive care unit looks like one of the large plastic bins we use to store lettuce at Dave's Italian Kitchen in Evanston, Illinois. It is lined with a number of hospital-issue baby blankets expertly folded to serve a variety of functions, anchor the crib sheet, warm the tiny occupant, horseshoe round the eggshell head. The turquoise and burgundy stripes which edge the white flannel blanket make me think of Mother Teresa's order, nuns in homespun saris. I steal one of the blankets to cuddle and cling to on the nights when I am alone in bed on the maternity ward and baby is 1 flight below in her salad bin. But you know, I don't think blanket stealing is exclusively limited to the parents of neonatal intensive care unit babies. Ever since I became a mother myself, not a week goes by that I don't catch some other woman carrying one of Mother Teresa's baby novices. There are too many of them to have all passed through intensive care. But just in case, I search the other parent's face, veteran to veteran, to see if they've seen combat too. The crack babies are the oldest residents of the neonatal intensive care unit. There are two of them, grandly named Vanessa and Tiffany. The exasperated nurses refer to them as
The princesses.
they live in a corner by the window. Vanessa, at 3 months, is way too big for the tiny disposable diapers the nursery stocks in bulk. She's going through withdrawal and cries constantly. Her weird sounds bounce off the hospital walls like rubber balls, especially at night when the overhead fluorescent lights are switched off and the nursery is illuminated by the blue bilirubin lights used to treat jaundice. By day, Vanessa is plump and dissatisfied, a charmless brawler with a bad reputation. The nurses refer to her by her last name, Army style. Her fame extends to the pediatrics ward across the hall.
Ritterelli, I heard about her.
There is only one nurse who doesn't seem to mind being assigned to the crack babies. Her name is Mary, and she has an easy manner, hands the size of oven mitts.
You're getting big and fat.
She's right. Compared to the other babies, Vanessa is indeed enormous.
You're so big and fat.
Mary, who is herself enormous, laughs generously at her own joke, bumps it up a notch when she notices the expression on Vanessa's face, a frown worthy of any third world dictator. Mary sits in a rocking chair for what seems like hours, Vanessa perched on her massive thighs, rocking patiently back and forth, until the baby finishes her bottle and falls asleep.
I'm your mommy today, so you be good to me.
That's right. Be good to your mommy. She's the best mommy you'll ever have.
Tiffany, the other crack baby princess, is half Vanessa's size. She's a beauty with dark, springy curls and large, liquid, dark eyes. Whereas Vanessa's shrieks, bizarre as they are, do tend to drone on and on like a broken record motivated simply by habit, Tiffany's screams sound like they're fueled by rage. Swaddle the livid patient in 4 or 5 hospital blankets and deposit the resulting package into a standing baby swing. A few cranks of the handle and the swing winds into a continuous back and forth that even Tiffany, mad as a hornet, cannot resist. Watching her succumb to the opiate of the swing fills me with good cheer. Her determination to keep up her battle cry strikes me as feisty, of a strong female character, though really I guess it's just that she wants more crack. And the swing always wins. Eventually, the hard little nut of a face poking out of the white flannel package relaxes, the screaming stops, and Miss Tiffany Scruggs sets sail for dreamland, one vertical crimp held between her brows as a promise that next time the battle will not be so easily lost.
It's Amanda. I was just calling to check on that very status. So I hope you're okay and everything's well and you're not too hot. So that's all. And anyhow, I'm thinking about you, wishing you a July 4th baby, and hoping you stay cool. Love ya. Bye.
I cannot remember the date of my last period. The midwife does not think this is funny.
You have to try to remember.
Once I've concocted a date of conception, it is set in stone in my chart and cannot be altered, even if it's wrong. The birthing center where I plan to deliver will only admit laboring mothers between their alleged 37th and 42nd weeks of pregnancy. If I botch the date, there's a chance that I won't be able to deliver at the center. They'll refer me out to the hospital. I don't want that to happen, so I rack my brains, but no, I'm clueless. Okay, finally resorting to a sort of phaco-numerology involving postmarks of letters from Chicago and my friends' birthdays, I settle on some random date of fertilization, and with one flick of the midwife's cardboard calculation wheel, my baby is to be born on July 4th. My baby is to be born on July 4th. My baby is to be born on July 4th. We fight over names. Milo, Malachi, if it's a girl, Mehitabel. I sit through movie credits and leaf through the phone book looking for a likely candidate. I run into an old boyfriend in the subway. He tells me that Louis Armstrong was born on July 4th. Armstrong, a fine, meaningful name. If the baby is born on July 4th, we will name him Independence Armstrong. And if he is a girl, Independence Armstrong! Independence Armstrong Jones! And I will have Independence Armstrong Jones easily on a bright Independence morning. He will slip quietly from my body into a tub of sweet warm water, a bath his first task on the planet. We will rest for 6 hours in the big birthing center bed with the wrought iron frame, and then we will walk cross town towards home. And quiet as we are, and tired as we are, we will mount the steps all the way 6 flights to the roof, so that as his first day on earth draws to a close, we can tilt Independence Armstrong Jones to face the sky, where fireworks are exploding over his tiny body, and the river to the east and the river to the west. My baby will be born, and fireworks will explode. This is a story about how quickly your brain can wrap around a thing. A marvelous organ, the human brain. When I was a student, I got to hold one in my hands. A marvelous organ, the human brain. My daughter may have a shadow on hers. I am informed that unnamed baby girl Halliday is to be taken for an MRI of her brain. I am told by a pleasantly grave young neurology resident that he needs my consent to give baby girl Halliday a high contrast MRI, and I don't know what that is, but he explains it to me, and he explains the possible side effects, the things that could go wrong, and I can't really remember what those were because I wasn't really listening. I was thinking, why is this happening to me? Why am I standing on industrial carpeting in a drafty corridor wearing a hospital gown and no underpants, attached intravenously to a hat rack that I have dragged beside me for 7 flights and 2 wings as I struggle to keep up with my guide, the maternity ward's receptionist, who clip-clops cheerfully through the hospital's labyrinth, making bright conversation about, well, I believe it was some young male movie star, or perhaps a comedy special she'd seen on cable television. I can't really remember what it was that she was chirping on about, but I chuckle automatically in all the appropriate places as I struggle to stay abreast, to stay a good sport. We pass a chapel, which is empty, and outside the MRI room, signs posted warning us against exposure to radiation, and God knows what else, requiring lead aprons and signatures of consent, which I am giving, though. Wait a minute. Can I see if I can reach my husband at home? Do you have a phone that I might use? Do you see how nicely I asked for the phone? The doctor stretches a cord out from a private office, and he even brings me a stool that I can perch upon, the vinyl cold on the exposed and tattered remains of what the nurses euphemistically refer to as my bottom. I place the call, and Greg is home. And I say, they want to do an MRI on the baby, and he says,
What is that?
and I say, something. I mean, God knows I didn't say magnetic resonance imaging, but I cobbled together something in a measured and medical tone of voice, and he says,
Well, that's what they think they need to do.
and I say, there are possible side effects, and he says,
Oh?
and I say, yes, this, this and this, my brain a million miles away on Mars, except for one tiny wrinkle, which is thinking, oh man, if I forget to say one side effect and she gets that side effect, he's going to be really pissed. And if I forget to mention just one side effect, that's for sure a side effect she's going to get. Excuse me, would you mind going over with my husband what you just told me? Husband, my husband? I don't have a husband. Did I get married? I'm way too young for any of this to be happening to. I thought, I'm 4 years old, I'm 5 years old. I'm 5 years old! I want to go outside and climb a tree now! And just as the doctor hangs up, baby girl Halliday wakes screaming from her anesthetized slumber in the room just off the corner. Screaming, 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 screaming. What is she, alone in there, strapped to the car, screaming, a shadow on her brain? And the doctor rushes in, but I am not allowed. And I sit shivering in the hallway, and the screams of baby girl Halliday seep out from underneath the door, and oh, they make me colder. The doctor comes out, and he's rattled. He's new. He's the brand new neurology resident, and it's the 4th of July weekend, and everyone else is out playing golf. He was left in charge of the store, and now something's gone wrong.
They need to give her a new IV, and they're having a little bit of trouble getting it in. And I don't want to be there when they do that because I think she's associating me with that. I think she sees me and she starts to freak out. They know, they know.
I know.
We'll try again later. Later this afternoon?
Okay. And later this afternoon, they call me to go down to the MRI lab, and I go. And I don't need a guide this time. I can find it on my own. 7 flights over, 2 wings down. Don't need a guide this time. Babies beat me there. They've already got her in the lab. They started without me. Greg arrives. Hi. And he reads out loud from a tattered copy of Entertainment Weekly. And I look at the pictures. Who wore what to last year's Academy Awards. But after a while, I have to stop because if my daughter is to be irreparably brain damaged, I don't want to be caught reading about Winona Ryder's evening gown. Her flawless, creamy skin can't fill my brain up with trash at a time like this. The receptionist, for whom this is but the tedium of another working day, places personal calls from the company phone, recklessly bitching about doctors and patients.
Colossal pains in the asses, all of them, honey, you know they are.
Her eyes crackle with irritation. She snaps at Greg, too.
Take your feet off the furniture.
The crappy stained upholstery of third-rate waiting room chairs. She demands to know
What you doing here?
She thinks he's some young whippersnapper resident.
Acting like he owns the place.
This is the father of the baby that's in there getting an MRI. Oh, that did the trick. After that, she wants him to.
Put your feet up on the furniture, honey.
The door to the lab swings open as employees come and go, and snippets of conversation between the MRI technicians float out into the waiting room.
I hate this stupid fucking machine.
We sit for a very long time, almost an hour, I think. And after a while, the technicians begin to wander out on a coffee break, and they're all holding spoons. All the technicians wander out holding spoons. And I believe yogurt is mentioned, but I lean over to Greg and I say, you know what they do during an MRI, don't you? They shear off the top of the skull with a laser, and then they scoop a little bit of the brain out and they eat it. That's what the spoons are for.
We'd like you to come in for some more comprehensive testing, Mrs. Garcia. It's nothing to worry about. We'd just like to take a closer look.
Yvonne, can we set up an appointment for Mrs. Garcia sometime next week, say Tuesday?
Brain! A marvelous organ, the human brain. And no less delicious for having a shadow on it. Oh no, that wouldn't affect the taste at all.
Hey, congratulations from Sven to the Ayun Halliday family. Yeah, congratulations, big time. I want to know all the details. Yeah, I don't know what's going on today on that big happy birthday, the 4th of July. It's pretty auspicious day, I suppose. Yeah, but I'll be having a party tonight up on my roof starting at 9. I mean, I understand it's yeah, if you guys don't make it, but yeah, congratulations. We'll be celebrating it over here also. I'll let everybody know that I see. So if you get a name, give a call, and so we can cheers to her, to the beautiful young one. Yeah, congratulations again. Take care.
I'm sitting beside my daughter's salad bin, watching her sleep when Baby Whitman's grandparents arrive. Baby Whitman is not looking so good. He's been placed in an incubator, the same kind which housed the tiny shaved monkey preemies. Somehow this looks more grim, Baby Whitman's strapping 10-pound frame encased in this plastic box. He's asleep when his grandparents arrive unescorted from upstate New York. His grandparents look healthy, cultured. I guess they look like my parents, who don't look like grandparents to me, not the way grandparents looked when I was a kid. The new grandparents stand shoulder to shoulder, gazing at Baby Whitman through the plastic walls of his box. They look like the couple who don't know anyone else at the party, and so they stand awkwardly by the punch bowl, trying to think of things to say to each other.
Well, there he is.
They can't touch him. There are twin portals in the sides of the box which allow the nurses to reach in and do their own thing, but this is a hospital, and Baby Whitman's grandparents don't want to touch anything without permission. They're unsure of how to proceed. They look around, but there's no one to congratulate. No mommy who's
Looking wonderful.
No daddy to tease, no baby to hold.
Give him to me. Come here, you. Yeah, hello, hello. I'm your grandma. That's who I am. Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
They just look at him. And finally, without speaking, Baby Whitman's grandfather pulls out a pocket camera, bends his knees so that the incubator isn't obstructing his view.
That's enough. Put the camera away. What? Put it away. I don't want Sherry to see him like this. You have enough. Put it away.
I'm not taking them for Sherry. I want them for myself.
It's hard for me to hear this story. Bless you, grandfather of Baby Whitman. Bless you and your shameless Instamatic. Bless you for reaching into your wallet and fishing out a picture with your big bear-like paws, a picture of a large baby looking pale and out of it in a covered salad bin. Bless you and bless your wife and give her strength when the soufflés fall and the hems come unstitched and the mail gets returned and the pictures don't come out right and something is wrong with the baby. It's okay. It's okay. Everything is going to be okay. The princess's mothers come to visit. Vanessa's mother comes infrequently, at least I see her rarely. But Tiffany's mother comes every day, dressed in clean t-shirt, modest shorts, and spanking new kids. She sits carefully in the rocking chair provided and responds with stiff pleasantries on the rare occasions when comments are addressed directly to her. I get the feeling that some social service agency has given her one last chance to clean up her act. Her act is looking very, very clean. She's working hard. But sometimes when Tiffany is asleep, her mother feeds from small vending machine bags of corn chips, her expression slack, obviously relieved to be on break from this world which so clearly is nothing like her accustomed turf. One One day I see her slide a volume of children's Bible stories from a shelf beneath Tiffany's salad bin. Oblivious to the little baby sleeping beside her, she begins slowly to read, her lips moving but no sound coming out. I wonder if she's embarrassed to speak out loud in front of me and the nurses. Some people feel embarrassed indulging in baby talk when there are other adults within earshot. Baby Whitman's father reads out loud from a hardbound volume of essays titled How Proust Can Change Your Life.
There may be significant things to learn about people by looking at what annoys them most. Proust got very annoyed by the way some people express themselves.
This came out perhaps a week or so before Baby Whitman himself did. Every night, Baby Whitman's father is stationed in a rocking chair. Baby Whitman settled and swaddled in the crook of his arm. How Proust Can Change Your Life in his free hand, reading on into the wee hours. Tiffany's mother grips the cardboard covers of the children's Bible stories with both hands, silently sounding out the letters. I realize that the social service agency has decreed that she had better learn how to read, too. I admire her. How can I not? Every day she has to run the gauntlet past all the other mothers and the fathers and the veteran nurses who've seen hundreds of sick babies in their years on the floor. Sick, sick babies whose parents would give anything to make them well. She has to pass by all these people and she knows what they're thinking. We know what made your baby sick. You made your baby sick. You know what made our baby sick? Nothing. She runs that gauntlet every day. She makes it to her rocker and tries to teach herself to read while her baby goes through withdrawal by her side, with only a bag of corn chips to comfort her. I admire her. I do. What I hate! The constant interruptions.
Miss Halliday?
A complete lack of privacy.
Good morning, Mrs. Halliday.
Always someone barging in to hook up my IV, or bring me a tray of starchy hospital food, or take away an untouched tray of starchy hospital food, or get me to sign a consent form, or take my blood pressure, or remind me that it's once again time to pump my breasts. Just when I had the chance to go see my baby who eats from an IV, I have to pump the milk out of my breasts with a horrible machine that looks like it might grind them into hamburger at any second.
Miss Halliday?
Good morning, Mrs. Halliday.
How you doing today, Miss Halliday?
I hate the constant phone calls, repeating each new development to my mother, my father, Greg's mother, Greg's brother, telling them about each upcoming test, CAT scan, MRI, spinal tap, telling them not to worry, telling them to be optimistic, forcing myself to sound positive, putting it in layman's terms as if I am the doctor myself, wishing I could just yank the goddamn phone out of the wall and go see my goddamn baby, and if they won't let me do that, at least let me go somewhere where I can cry in peace. How about that chapel across from the MRI lab? They wouldn't pursue a crying woman into a chapel, would they? I don't like anyone to hear me cry, so I pull the curtain around my half of the room and bury my face in a pillow and twist that little blanket that looks like Mother Teresa's husband. I'm sorry!
Miss Halliday?
I hate being called mommy by nurses who cannot remember my name. I mean, I know they're busy, but I just became a mommy a few days ago, and my baby is very sick, and hearing my own name would go a long way right now, but instead it's mommy.
Hello, Mommy.
Good morning, Mommy.
How you feeling today, Mommy Halliday?
They say, glancing at the chart by my bed, Mommy Halliday. This makes my husband, Greg Cotis, Daddy Halliday, or Mr. Halliday, which he accepts gracefully. Greg is worried that I am on the verge of freaking out. I tell him that I hate the lack of privacy. I need a place to go where I can go cry and where no one can get me. I can't stand it anymore. The phone's always ringing, and And Greg asked the nurse if the hospital doesn't have some sort of roof garden where I could go sit, or maybe they would let me out to take a short walk around the block.
Honey, he ain't even supposed to leave this floor.
So I stay inside. But I hang on to an image of myself banging through the hospital doors and humping up Greenwich Avenue in my flapping hospital gown and paper slippers, trying to make it to the closest boho coffee house before security can wrestle me to the pavement. I hold that image in my mouth all day, suck on it like a sour ball, and this makes me feel much better.
forth, and I thought, I'd call. But I at first had to consult a million people as to the, like, whether that was kosher or not, to call. Like, do you want calls or do you not want calls? I don't know, I got all nervous. So I consulted a lot of people, and they all told me different things, and so I decided to call. This is Tatiana, anyway. I'll just bring you, or maybe call the Coleus brothers. They probably know what's going on. Bye-bye.
At night, the fluorescent overheads are switched off, and each baby's bin is spotlit. A few parents camp in scattered rocking chairs. Baby Whitman's father reads out loud from How Proust Can Change Your Life. The luckiest mothers get to rock their babies in their arms, their faces ecstatic, drunk from contact. The nurses pad between the bins on their gum-soled white nurse feet, bending to the babies like seraphim, spotlit. The banks of monitors click and whir. The babies lay still, their eyes closed, even the cracked babies, breathing together, in and out, in and out, their tiny hearts pattering like the hearts of mice. Sleeping. Probably sleeping. Or maybe they're born knowing everything, and this is the time when they're busy erasing the tapes.
Anne, Greg, it's Stephen Colbert and Evie McGee Colbert calling you. Congratulations, that's great. And congratulations to all. We want to hear the later story. And congratulations to the new and as yet unnamed member of the human race. That's wonderful. I hope you all doing well. I'm sure you're asleep somewhere, if not at home. Bye-bye.
So we named the baby.
Oh, congratulations. That's different.
When you have a sick baby and you don't know what's going on, you don't want to name her the wrong thing or she might not get well. Know what I mean? A sick baby needs the right name. I recognize one of the other intensive care mothers from the East Village. She is a tall, striking woman with her long orange hair done up in an enormous turban. She arrives in the afternoons holding the hands of a wild corkscrew-haired 2-year-old, Jared. Oh yeah, I've seen her before, definitely doing her groovy mother thing up and down First Avenue. I introduce myself and we become friendly right off the bat, jawing away like bunkmates at summer camp. She tells me how she planted her son Jared's placenta in her patch of the community garden at 6th and B. She tells me how with this second birth, she'd really been looking forward to delivering the placenta because it had felt so good coming out the first time. I remember the cool flop of the placenta, like a nice cold T-bone over a cartoon black eye. My friend didn't get to keep the placenta with this birth, though. They needed it in pathology.
Do you know how much money hospitals make selling placentas?
Wow, I am thrilled to be a part of this women's club, this experienced, groovy single mother. Like me, she was transferred from the birthing center when her labor slowed way down. Unlike me, who obediently dressed and climbed into a taxi cab for the 2-block ride to the hospital, my friend was taken shouting, "Fuck you! Get away from me! I'm going home! I'll have this baby at home!" Well, that wasn't an option, of course. And my friend's birthing story ends with a doctor charging into the delivery room shouting, "Hold on!" as he flipped her over like a pancake and reached up inside her.
Oh, with these hands!
Yanking the baby out, and when she reached for the baby,
No, don't touch!
the baby was whisked away, and now the baby is here in neonatal intensive care, and my friend comes to see him every day, sometimes with Jared, sometimes with her mother or father who live on Long Island. Her mother makes a big fuss over my baby, who is no longer baby girl Halliday, but India Reed
Oh,
Otis.
India, what a lovely name.
beautiful baby. I could tell she was a girl even before you told me. She's very feminine, you see. Let me hold her.
My friend's mother holds India for almost an hour, very glad, I think, to be holding a baby, any baby. Her baby, my friend's baby, her grandson, lays on his back in his salad bin, and I think there are rules against picking him up. His head is carpeted with lush black fur, and he has big arms and big legs and a big wide nose, strong cheekbones. Looks like he should be out cutting wood.
Jeremiah, this is India. Do you think they might grow up and marry each other?
I don't know. They might.
Well, I had friends who did just that. How did you two meet? I said to them, and they said to me, we met on the day we were born. Well, not really young. They were born in the same hospital, and they were in the nursery at the same time. So perhaps Jeremiah and India.
Big Jeremiah, lays helpless on his back, his limbs swollen from antibiotics, his eyelids puffed shut. India is on antibiotics too, but she remains delicate, feminine, solemnly regarding Jeremiah's grandmother from her nest of hospital blankets. Jeremiah is nude. The nurses will not let my friend diaper him. Instead, he wears a washcloth folded over his penis, and every so often it is removed and weighed to determine his urine output, a homespun test in this high-tech world. Every so often he twitches as if he is having a seizure. It looks like he's being electrocuted. My friend and I don't talk about this. We talk about Oriental healing therapies and restaurants we both like in the East Village. One morning when my friend isn't there, I hear Jeremiah crying as the nurse tends to him. I'm shocked. He looks so big and hairy laying there without his diaper. His swollen limbs seem so packed with muscle that I had forgotten he is a baby. My friend tells me that she dreamed of Jeremiah before he was born. She dreamed of a big, strong baby with dark hair. She decided that if she had that baby, she would name him Jeremiah. If she had another baby, she would name him something else. I guess she had that baby.
Hi, it's Stephen. I was just calling. I just got back. I was just wondering if you're still in the hospital or what's going on. Maybe I'll try over there. Okay. I'll talk to you later. Congratulations.
Those of us on the maternity ward with babies in the neonatal intensive care unit are awakened several times a night to go feed our babies. I don't complain. For the first few days after India was born, I wasn't allowed to feed her. Instead, they woke me up 3 times a night to pump the milk out of my breast with a hulking metal contraption that looked like a ticker tape machine from 1929. Sometimes when I was pumping in the middle of the night, my hand holding the suctioning device to my body would slip, and I would awaken to find a big red hickey on one of my boobs. So now when they come for me, I jump right up. It feels sort of like the sound of music, the nuns gently shaking me into wakefulness so I can escape the Nazis. At this time of night, there's not too much going on. Sometimes I catch sight of a maintenance man swabbing the halls with a dirty-looking mop. Once when I'm waiting for the elevator at 3 a.m., I hear the piteous groans of a woman in labor and burst into tears. Other mothers glide into the intensive care unit, rubbing their eyes. We don't speak. We sit in the rockers, the shyer ones of us behind screens. We smile blissed-out zombie smiles when the nurses deposit the swaddled packages into our arms. We make up nicknames for the babies, murmur encouragements in the hopes that they will eat up, that things will improve, and we can go home. It hurts at first, but it's good, those hard little gums clamping onto our defenseless nipples. What does it feel like? It feels like packing a snowball with your bare hands.
2 days, room
sick baby, but for the first time in my life, I really got my money's worth out of health insurance. Baby's getting better, I can tell. I can tell because the nurses leave us alone and say things like,
I bet you'll be glad to get out of here.
we have to stay for the whole 10-day course of prescribed antibiotics, but then we can go home. Ever since I was discharged from the maternity ward, I've been sleeping on a couch in the intensive care's isolation room. Sometimes I slip out to buy a sandwich or to shower at a friend's house who lives not far from the hospital, but mostly I stay in the isolation room or I go sit in a rocker in the intensive care unit's big nursery. The nurses keep telling us to take a break.
Go on. We got everything under control here. Have dinner, enjoy.
So we do. Greg and I go out on a date. It feels really irresponsible eating dinner in a nice restaurant while our baby lays in intensive care. But the nurses are hamming it up like they're our relatives, unpaid babysitters.
Don't worry about us, we'll be fine.
Okay, so we go. It's bizarre. Let's have some wine. The waiter doesn't know we have a new baby. It's like nobody would know unless we tell them. It's like we have this secret baby. I want to go see her. Let's go back and see the baby. When we return from dinner, we are told that India has to get a new IV.
Your baby needs a new IV.
The babysitting grandma game is over. A tough-as-nails veteran nurse shows us how India's skin is looking discolored and rotten where the IV tube punctures her skin. It looks like her whole arm is being eaten up with gangrene under the little Velcro cast that keeps the IV tube from tangling with the heart and pulse monitors. Oh God, I think about junkies shooting up in the soles of their feet when the veins in their arms collapse. The nurse shoos us into the isolation room so that she can insert a fresh IV. She doesn't want us to witness this procedure. Feeling powerless, we allow ourselves to be shooed. I feel like we're waiting out an execution. What about Timothy McVeigh's mother? He must have been a baby once. And then a baby's scream splits the air. Not to be dramatic, but a baby's scream splits the air. It is nighttime and all the babies are sleeping except for one baby, my baby, who screams like she is being cut in half. I'm not chained to the wall. Nobody's restraining me. I'm going and save her from what she clearly, obviously experiences as excruciating pain, torture. But I don't. I huddle on the isolation room's couch, staring miserably at Greg. Oh, what a shit situation this is. What a shit situation for us and our poor little baby. Our poor little baby girl. Oh my God, what are they doing to her? It sounds like they're cutting her in half. The screaming stops, and baby is brought in calm and swathed. The IV tube is coming out of her head. Her head. Okay, there is the tube of an IV coming out. Stuck like a tumor to the top of my baby's head is a wadded anthill of flesh-colored tape, and spouting out of that is the tube of an IV. There is a wad of tape in my baby's fragile hair, and sticking out of that is a tube of an IV into her head.
Okay. I didn't tell you where we were going to stick the IV because I knew you'd freak out.
Stupid parents. This time I don't laugh. There's a tube coming out of my baby's head. I don't find that funny at all. Oh my God, it looks so bad. They're putting tubes in her head. They're never going to let us out of here. The next day, I am calling the tube the antenna. Space Monkey needs her antenna so that she can receive transmissions from space. She is Space Monkey! She comes from space! Oh, foolish earthlings, I am here to tell you that you can get used to anything! Anything! You can get used to anything! One of the nurses, when her chores are all done, amuses herself by dressing her patients in baby clothes hand-knit by volunteers. She stores them in a blue plastic bag in a cupboard near the crack babies, and every so often she dips into it for a fresh supply of shapeless booties and flesh-colored crocheted skull caps that look so much like human breasts, it is difficult not to blush as she works them over the baby's head. They're horrible, these baby clothes knit by volunteers. They stink of swap meet handicrafts, plastic Southern Belle dolls in lumpy acrylic skirts, Budweiser cans flattened and scalloped together with yarn to form vests. How easy it is to conjure a mental image of the volunteer workforce.
I love babies.
Kindly, soft-laughed grannies doing their social security checks at the church offertory plate and the Woolworth yarn counter. Their good intentions are braved in bright sunshine and stick-to-your-ribs breakfasts. As the parent of an ailing child, it is incumbent upon me to accept their output with reciprocal grace. And so I accept every flesh-colored booby hat, every handmade, hideous Afghan square with a smile, cotton mouth, and so do all the other parents, which is how the 2-pound incubated preemie parked next to the wall comes to resemble a Q-tip, her twig-like legs poking out of pastel, clumsy boots, her lemon-sized head trapped in a fluffy, formless tam o'shanter, its synthetic fibers glinting ominously under the Billy Rubin lights. This is the nurses doing, not the parents. Actually, this baby doesn't have parents that I can see. I wonder what happened to them. Do they live too far away to visit, or are they teenagers who never wanted a baby to begin with, or do the other children consume all their time, or do they work around the clock, or is this just all too much for them to bear, or where are this baby's parents? This baby doesn't have parents. She has a nurse who enjoys dressing her up and even changes her clothes from time to time, tossing the worn outfits into the trash without much ceremony. I mean, it's probably some health regulation, but think about it. Who'd want secondhand baby clothes from a large metropolitan hospital's neonatal intensive care unit? I mean, especially these ones. And it, yes, with love, to be sure, but UGLY, you know what I'm saying?
Let's hold hands.
Vanessa, the crack baby, has been here so long that her salad bin is stacked high with pastel hand-knit Afghan squares. Her hope chest, I guess. People are always asking me if any of the babies died. Everyone always wants to know if any of the babies died. And the answer is no, not while I was there. The babies lived and were kept alive by some of the most sophisticated medical technology money can buy. Babies like the preemie Q-tip in her hand-knit boots would have died without it. India would have died without antibiotics.
Do you know how sick your baby was when she was brought in here?
And the answer again is no. I didn't know. I guess if we would have had her in a cabin in Vermont, she would have died. Greg likes to remind me that I would have died too. 100 years ago, I would have died. But not now. The babies didn't die. The isolation room where I lived after being discharged from the maternity ward had wall switches labeled oxygen and vacuum and an observation window just like an operating theater, and I slept like a baby in there away from all the phone calls and the visitors and the trays of hospital food, and none of the babies died, no. 4 babies died in August in a neonatal intensive care unit in Boston. They were contaminated by a virus from the outside, and they died. The unit closed down when they saw too late what was happening. I can't imagine, but I do. A couple of months before India was born, a family friend gave birth to a baby who has 3 holes in her heart. Kathleen, Kate. She's still alive today. They let her take her home after teaching the parents how to hook her up to an oxygen kit and how to insert a feeding tube down her throat. She's amazed her doctors. Everyone thinks that she's still alive because she's had such loving parents, but you know, even with that, she won't live. can't imagine, but I do. Some nights I'd sit crying alongside India's salad bin, and looking up I'd see another mother crying across from me, and another mother crying down the way from her. I heard one tell a nurse,
It's not fair. It's not fair.
she got to go home with her baby 2 days later. Lucky. And because you might get points for being a good sport as well as a good parent, I remarked to the same nurse, well, I can't complain. I mean, I know there are people here whose situation is much more grim than ours. I have a friend whose baby has 3 holes in her heart.
Well, it's a place of broken dreams. No matter what the situation is, it boils down to somebody's dream being shattered.
Huh. After she said that, I felt like I could relax. Yeah, whatever else got shattered, my baby is alive. And what I said earlier about everyone always wanting to know, it isn't true. Nobody ever asked me that. I would have liked to talk about that. I would have liked to ask the nurses about that myself. They had a memo tacked up about plans to start a bereavement group in the upcoming year, so I guess there's our answer. But none of the babies ever died. No.
But enough about
From your 7 hours of pushing,
If they tell you
hydrogen peroxide is good for that.
even you men.
If they come at you with a bottle of hydrogen peroxide, you just tell them no.
Hi, Greg and Ann, it's Aunt Rosalie. I tried to help you yesterday, but all I got was a busy signal all day. So I figured maybe they didn't want to have any phone. I just wanted to wish you both the best of luck. I have a little problem. I'm sure everything will work out fine. I'll try to get you again. Bye.
Why is it that when I say no, she assumes I mean yes? My mother is flying out from Indiana. I told her not to come. I can't have her here on top of all this. My mother is not good in a crisis. God, that time in 1991 when the cat got stuck in a radiator and it's dangling by one paw and its eyes are rolling back in its head and it's frothing at the mouth, and my mother just happens to call in the middle of all that, and suddenly she's shouting that she's gonna fly out from Indiana then too? I can't handle it anymore. I cannot handle it anymore. Would everyone please just leave me the fuck alone?
Hi, Greg. It's Betsy. I guess you're probably still at the hospital or else on your way home. I have a booking on a flight to LaGuardia tomorrow afternoon, which is Monday. About 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'll be in about 5. I hope this doesn't conflict with you and Ann. I'd like to just come to lend my support and do whatever I can. I don't want to intrude, but I'd like to be there, and I probably won't stay long, but I'd like to see Ann and you, and of course I want to see the baby. So if there's a big problem, then just call me in the morning. It's area code 317-873-6615. I'm also going to call Ann in the morning and let her know. And I'll just flip in, flip out, and I'll make housing arrangements. Don't worry about that. So, hey, I'd like to see you sooner than you think. I feel certain things are going to work out. I'm sure they will. And I just probably need to be there as well. But I am not going to be a blubbery mother-in-law or mother. And call me if you wish. Thanks. Bye.
She didn't come. She didn't come. Thank God. I mean, I know she just wanted to help. Later, she intimated that it was my stepfather who put her up to it, that he was the one who insisted she fly to New York. They need you, Betsy. They need your energy. The second of my 3 roommates in the maternity ward was Margie. Her son Harry had landed in NICU also.
It's because I had a fever during labor. Just one fever. It lasted no more than 5 minutes. Shouldn't count.
Yep, them's the rules. If the mother runs a fever during labor, no matter how long or short, the baby goes directly to NICU, does not pass go, does not collect $200. So Harry's stuck in neonatal intensive care, though really he's right as rain. The catch is that they won't release Margie from the maternity ward. She had Harry by cesarean section, and they won't let her go until she farts. I forget why this is exactly, something to do with her incision. I think they want to know that she can pass gas without blowing herself wide open. She spends huge amounts of time in our bathroom trying to make herself fart. The nurses keep returning to check if Margie has managed to fart yet.
Oh, well, don't worry, you will. You gotta keep trying. We can't let you out until you do.
In the spirit of things, I notify Margie every time I plan to take a shower. Hey Margie, if you need to use the bathroom for any reason at all, you just come right on in. You don't even have to bother to knock. Margie's family arrives. Mother, father, younger sister, roses, balloons. She's told me that they're very repressed. Still, everyone is rooting for her, but... oh, nothing. She can't fart. I want to encourage her to eat beans, tofu, raw cauliflower, or broccoli, but I stop myself because what do I know? I mean, I'm not a doctor. What if after several bowls of vegetarian chili, the gas builds and builds in Margie's body until it blows her incision wide open? I don't want to be held responsible for that. Friends who visited me in the maternity ward called to check on Margie's progress.
Has your roommate farted yet?
Everybody thinks it's hilarious, except for Margie, who cries bitterly in her husband's arms.
I'm trying.
I wonder if it's enough to just fart, or does she have to fart in a nurse's presence in order to make it official? I tell her that I am prepared to act as a witness when oh my God, you did it! Oh, I'm so jealous. Oh, not because, oh hey look, I can fart anytime I want to. We can tell something is wrong because her cries are so weak. Even when the sharp point of the heel stick bites into her flesh, she sounds like a tiny mewing kitten. Finally, at around 10 p.m., she is taken away for good. I cannot walk, so Greg accompanies her to the neonatal intensive care unit, where he keeps a vigil beside her tiny body. Outside the window, fireworks explode. The baby has no name. She weighs 6 pounds, 11 ounces, has calcium, sodium, and magnesium deficiencies, jaundice, a suspected unidentified bacterial infection, and cries, in the words of the neonatologist, inconsolably. She has deteriorated alarmingly since her birth at 2:37 p.m., July 3rd. A pediatrician in a Hawaiian shirt keeps calling to let us know he's ordered tests. He always tells us not to worry, that it's no big deal. I've ordered a complete blood count, but don't worry, it's no big deal. It's weird, her white blood cells are way out of whack, but it's no big deal. We're gonna give her a CAT scan, but it's don't worry, no big deal, don't worry. Listen, we found something that looks like a shadow on her brain, but I don't want you to worry, Mom, it's not really a big deal, but we want to give her a CAT scan, this time with some dye, so we can see what's really going on in there. I am not allowed to breastfeed her because I am running a fever and she has some mysterious infection. The doctors don't know what, although samples and cultures have been taken. I get to hold her maybe once a day. Greg said she opened her eyes and looked right at him this morning, but now she's just laying there, stripped to her diaper, with her cap rolled over her eyes. Felt goggles strapped over the cat provide extra protection from the bright bilirubin lights under which she is roasting. Mirrors have been taped to her chest to intensify the rays. It's the treatment for jaundice, but I don't know that. I think it's something to do with the CAT scan. I think she's dying. I think something is wrong with her brain. I can't believe it's come to this. I spend a lot of time in the neonatal intensive care unit, sitting on a rocking chair beside my baby, who sleeps in something that looks like a salad bin from Dave's Italian kitchen. It takes me a long time to get from the maternity ward on the 9th floor to the neonatal intensive care unit on the 8th floor because I can't walk. I feel like I'm being split in two every time I try to get up off my hospital bed. I have to shuffle on tiptoe. But the only time I get any peace is when I can be with the baby, so I shuffle away to the elevator. Often before I get there, I'm apprehended by someone who wants to take my temperature or my blood pressure, or they want to put more medicine in my IV. I have to pump my breasts every 3 hours. Okay, we're gonna do a lumbar puncture on the baby, but don't worry, it's not that big a deal. People tend to freak out when they hear spinal tap, but it's really not that big a deal. We're gonna have to get your consent for an MRI. We need to take a closer look at that shadow. Your baby has a heart murmur, so I've arranged for you to talk to a cardiologist. I feel like I'm ready to explode. I want to be left alone. No one will leave me alone. My mother calls at 2 a.m. to say she's bought plane tickets. It is discovered that I have a vaginal hematoma. That's why I can't walk. The senior resident of gynecology spreads me out on a table and begins to attack the wound with hydrogen peroxide. It really hurts. It hurts worse than labor. It hurts worse because nobody knows what's wrong with my baby, and they keep doing these tests on her, and what if she never gets better? The senior resident of gynecology is younger than I am, and she talks about the television show Friends while I weep, and the visiting midwife lays her ample breasts across my face to comfort me. I never tell the resident that in college I was friends with one of the stars of Friends. My temperature returns to 98.6. A nurse named Karen asked me if I want to feed the baby through a tube. She says she'd let me try to breastfeed, but the baby is still a bit doped up on the sedative from her MRI, and there's a chance she would choke. Karen slides a narrow tube down the baby's throat, and I pour a small vial of freshly pumped breast milk into it. Karen says that the baby likes it. Karen says the baby's probably sobered up enough to breastfeed. Karen drags a rocker over to the salad bin, unhooks the baby's monitor, and leaves us alone so the baby can have some more. Things start to get better. I am discharged from the hospital. I have to fill out a birth certificate before I leave. I call Greg and I say, we have to name this baby. We name the baby India after our travels in that country, and Reed after my father. The neonatal intensive care nurses say that I can sleep on a couch in the isolation room. I can stay there for as long as it takes, unless they need the isolation room for a sick baby. I give my bouquets to the maternity ward nurses, race home, grab some clothes, race back, feed the baby. Nama, the tough nurse with whom I brawled over the Space Monkey IV, takes care of me and my baby. We're not a match made in heaven. She abhors the idea of the baby sleeping in her parents' bed, insists that disaster will strike if we do not vacate our tiny East Village apartment immediately, and perceives absolutely incorrectly that it is Greg who will ruin our child with his stubborn hippy-dippy ideas. You've got to tell him the baby needs her own bed, period. She cannot sleep in the bed with you. He is crazy to have such an idea. Because I'm the one who's at her mercy 24 hours a day, I let him take the rap. My baby has never seen weather, has never smelled rain. Her sunrises have all been fluorescent. As the baby's health improves, I am allowed to take on more responsibility for her care. The nurses teach me how to fold hospital blankets into the salad bin, how to disconnect the baby from the monitors, and also more remedial skills such as how to diaper and bathe the newborn. A nurse named Joanne teaches me how to swaddle the baby, which she calls making a burrito. I feel like a young nun here on my narrow couch in the isolation room. Just me and my book and my baby. Sometimes I venture out to visit with Jeremiah's mother or to look at the little Q-tip preemie who never gets any visitors, but mostly I stay in my cool, dark cave. Greg and my mother-in-law visit. I don't give out the phone number to many people. I wish my friends could see the baby, but I keep telling myself that they will. The antibiotics are working. We never learned the cause of the infection. The test tube in which the culture was placed was contaminated, rendering the test results worthless. The baby gets an IV put in her head, but it's not so bad. I mean, it is, but it isn't. It could be worse. I look at Jeremiah and wonder when he'll be discharged, worried that he won't be okay. Jeremiah gets an IV in his head, too. Maybe they will grow up and marry each other. They've got so much in common. And finally, it is our last night in the neonatal intensive care unit. July 14th, Bastille Day, my grandmother's birthday. Oh, how she would have loved to see this baby. Tomorrow morning, we get to go home. Spencer and Sarah are coming for us with a car. Greg has to work so we can continue to receive health insurance. I think about all the babies who've passed through this place. Thousands. On the morning of our departure, Nama hugs me and plants a kiss on the baby whose name she has not yet forgotten. Goodbye, India. You're going home to the family bed. Oh my God. Spencer has gained permission to enter the neonatal intensive care unit to help me carry away my belongings and the many pink and white vinyl diaper bags loaded with coupons and complimentary formula that Nurse Joanne has scored for me from the supply room shelves. She presents me with a stash of frozen breast milk, little bottles labeled with my name and the date they were pumped, relics from my days with the maternity ward's ticker tape machine. As we wait for the official discharge papers, Spencer treads around the ward on tiptoe, whispering, taking note of Jeremiah, the crack babies, and the Q-tip preemie. She has a joyous reunion with India, whose entrance into the world 2 weeks ago she witnessed. At last, I get to hear a friend run through the litany.
She's so beautiful.
Which she is,
And she's so big.
which she isn't, and
She's really alert. God, she's looking right at me.
Nurse Joanne takes the elevator with us as far as the lobby. It's weird. For a second there, I almost don't want to leave this place. And then the elevator doors close, and it's just Spencer and me and the baby. Sarah is waiting for us in a car on the corner of Greenwich Avenue and 11th Street. She's been waiting to drive this baby home from the hospital since Spencer called her to tell her that I had gone into labor on July 3rd. We have a car seat and everything. Without looking back, we step over the threshold into the first sunlight that India Reed Codis has ever seen. It feels almost like the 4th of July.